Hi, in Asia, a lot of people give cookies for Chinese New Year, but these cookies are on sale everywhere and people are buying the same things. So I decided to make my own cookies as unique gifts. If you have never done this, I will show you how easy it is to make my signature traditional peanut cookies for Chinese New Year. The recipe is in the description below. I found this recipe on the internet, but I modified it to make it healthier. I'll show you step by step how to make it. Let's start with the ingredients. Multi-purpose flour or plain flour is a blend of hard and soft wheat. I like to use the one that's enriched with vitamins. If you use different flours, it will change the texture of the cookies. For all the public health people, I have reduced the sugar by half from the original recipe. I mixed 3/4 of castor sugar, which is a small crystal sugar, with 1/4 icing sugar, the superfine sugar. So the castor sugar gives the crunchiness to the cookies, while the icing sugar helps to maintain the shape. And we put a little salt in to balance the sweetness and to enhance the flavor. Now we need fat to enable the dough to mix together. And so there's the mix of butter and cooking oil. Butter gives a creamery and a buttery flavor, so choose a brand that has this aroma. Cooking oil is healthier because it has less saturated fats. You can use peanut oil that gives a nutty taste, but I prefer canola oil because it has a neutral flavor, so you can use this for other cookies as well. And you can substitute this with sunflower oil or safflower oil, but canola oil has omega-3 in addition to omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids. And you need the egg yolk to glaze the cookies, I'll show you later. And lastly, you need parchment paper or non-stick paper to line the baking tray. So let's go!
So first you weigh out the amount of peanuts that you need. And then you want to crush or grind the peanuts in a fruit processor. I use the dry mill attachment of the blender. So you want to grind it for a short while, then I take it out and shake the canister so that the heavier parts drop to the bottom to be crushed again, so that we don't crush everything too long. That will cause the ground powder to become liquid. We don't want it. We want it to remain dry, as you can see. Then we weigh out the amount of flour that we need. Next we weigh out the icing sugar. You can see some of them are in clumps, so to prevent clumps inside the cookie, we pour the icing sugar over the sieve and use the sieve with a spoon to make sure all the icing sugar are in fine pieces. Next we weigh out the castor sugar. So now we're ready to combine all the dry ingredients together. The flour, the ground peanut, and the sugars. Then we add a little bit of salt in addition to the salt from the salted peanuts. Now we mix the dry powders together. So next we're gonna add the oils. The first is butter. So we open up the can of butter, and we take out an amount to put into the microwave oven in order to melt the butter. You see the melted butter in the bowl, and now we take out the canola oil and pour the amount of canola oil, and then we pour the amount of butter and mix the fat mixture together. Now we're ready to pour the fat mixture into the dough in order to make to mix the dough. We pour about 2/3 of the amount and we start mixing. And when it's well mixed, the oil mixing with the dough, we pour in more oil and continue the mixing until the mixing is quite even and the dough gets softer. And finally we pour in the rest of the oil, and then we are quite ready to use the dough. The final step to prepare the dough is by using your hands to knead the dough. So use hands to mix the dough very well, squeeze it, mix it, and then the dough is ready when it can form a ball by itself. It won't stick to the surface and it can be a ball like that. Then it's ready. To further test it, you can take a little bit and roll it into a ball and make sure that it can be in the shape of a ball, that it won't crumble, so that now the dough is ready for the cookie. Now we're going to get some egg yolk to use as a glazing for the cookies. So we just take the egg yolk and put a little bit of water, and then we beat the egg yolk until it's a liquid, and that's our egg wash used for glazing the cookies later. So now we're putting the parchment paper over the cookie pan, and then we're gonna preheat the oven. I use the top and bottom heating and set the temperature to 175 degrees centigrade. So let the oven be preheated before we put in the cookies. So now we're ready to roll the cookies into the shape of a ball. The size is about the same size as the peanut, same length as a peanut. You don't need bigger because when it bakes, it's going to become bigger. So just a nice, and we attach a peanut on top. You can see the size is just the right size for the peanut, and that'll be just fine. And then we use a silicone brush to brush a bit of the egg yolk as a glaze over the cookie to make the color nicer. So now we do this. We spread out all the cookies over the cookie pan, and then we put the peanut on top, and then we glaze it. And now we are ready to bring the cookie pan and all the cookies into the oven. So we're going to bake it somewhere in the middle rung, more closer to the bottom, and we're going to bake it for about 12 minutes. At 12 minutes you can smell it. You can see it's starting to crack. You don't want to put too long, because if you put too long, it'll start to crumble. So at about 12 minutes you'll be ready to take out. So we take it out in order to cool it, and in order to cool it faster, you can also transfer the cookies onto a rack for cooling if you want. So now the cookies are cool, and we're going to put it into the container. We're going to put it layer by layer into the container with a piece of mahjong paper as a separator to prevent cracking and breaking. So we continue to put on the next layer until we fill up the whole container. We put the last piece of mahjong paper and we close the lid tight. And so that's one container full. And we'll seal the container with this golden tape. And with that, we're ready to keep that and also to use it as a gift. So you have made delicious, nutty and crunchy peanut cookies. Enjoy it and happy baking!